Have you ever wondered why certain souls seem to carry an invisible mark, a divine signature that sets them apart from the wandering masses? There exists a sacred symbol hidden in plain sight throughout the teachings of Jesus, a mystical letter that holds the power to unlock your divine destiny. Today, I'm going to reveal something that has been concealed from humanity for 2,000 years, the secret of the sacred M mark, and why Jesus spoke of it only to those with ears to hear. Right now, in this very moment, type in the comments, "I am marked." Don't question it, just feel it. Let those 3 words resonate through your being, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this simple declaration is actually an ancient activation code that Jesus himself encoded into his teachings. And if you're feeling that inexplicable pull, that strange resonance in your chest as you watch this, hit that like button. Because that feeling isn't random, it's recognition. Your soul remembers something your mind has forgotten. Listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you cannot be found in any mainstream religious text. The church removed it. Scholars overlooked it. But the mystics, the Gnostics, the true seekers throughout the ages, they preserved this knowledge in symbols, in parables, in the hidden layers of sacred scripture. The M mark isn't just a letter. It's a frequency. It's a state of consciousness. It's the divine blueprint that separates those who merely exist from those who are chosen to transform the very fabric of reality. In this video, we'll journey together through the veiled passages of ancient wisdom, decode the mystical significance of this sacred symbol, and most importantly, I'll guide you through the precise activation sequence that awakens this mark within your own energy field. You're going to discover why Jesus said, "Many are called, but few are chosen," and how the M mark determines which side of that divine equation you stand on. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophy. This is the practical mysticism that changes lives, that shifts destinies, that awakens the dormant God seed planted within your soul before you were even born. Stay with me, because every word from this point forward carries a frequency, a vibration designed to activate what's already sleeping inside you. To understand the profound mystery of the M mark, we must first travel back through the mists of time to the hidden teachings that Jesus shared only with his inner circle. In the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, discovered in 1945 among the Nag Hammadi texts, Jesus speaks in riddles and codes, revealing truths that the uninitiated could never comprehend. He says, "I shall give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, what has not arisen in the human heart." This wasn't poetry. This was a promise of transmission, a spiritual technology that transcends the 5 senses. The early Christian mystics understood something that modern religion has completely forgotten. They knew that Jesus wasn't merely a teacher of moral platitudes, but a master of consciousness, an activator of dormant human potential. In the ancient Aramaic language that Jesus spoke, every letter carried numerical value, geometric significance, and vibrational frequency. The letter M, or Mem in Hebrew, represented water, the womb, the divine mother, and most crucially, the matrix of creation itself. When Jesus spoke of being born again, he wasn't speaking metaphorically about belief. He was describing a literal energetic rebirth that occurs when the M mark is activated within the spiritual body. The Essenes, the mystical Jewish sect that many scholars believe Jesus was initiated into, practiced secret rituals involving the awakening of what they called the sealed ones. These were individuals who carried a specific energetic signature, a divine imprint that marked them for a higher purpose. Ancient texts describe these chosen ones as bearing the seal of the living God upon their foreheads. Not a physical mark, but an etheric symbol, visible only to those with spiritual sight. The book of Revelation echoes this, speaking of the 144,000 who are sealed, who stand apart from the multitudes, who carry the mark of divine protection and purpose. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. In the Kabbalah, the ancient Jewish mystical tradition that predates Christianity, the letter Mem is associated with the 13th path on the Tree of Life, connecting the sphere of understanding with the sphere of beauty. 13, the number of transformation, of death and rebirth, of the divine feminine. Mary Magdalene, the Mother Mary, the mystical marriage, all begin with M. This is not coincidence. This is cosmic design. The ancients understood that certain souls incarnate carrying the Mem frequency, the water-bearer consciousness that can dissolve old paradigms and birth new realities. In the secret teachings preserved by the Knights Templar and later by Rosicrucian mystics, there exists a doctrine called the Mark of Melchizedek, Melchizedek being the mysterious priest-king who blessed Abraham and who the book of Hebrews identifies as a prefigurement of Christ himself. This mark, they taught, was not given but awakened. It existed in potential within certain souls, waiting for the precise moment of activation, the exact convergence of spiritual readiness and divine timing. Those who carried this mark were said to possess the ability to access higher dimensions of consciousness, to channel divine wisdom, and to serve as bridges between heaven and earth. The Gnostic texts speak of the pneumatics, the spiritual ones who possess the divine spark in full measure, as opposed to the hylix, who are trapped in material consciousness. The pneumatics weren't superior by birth or merit, but by recognition. They recognized the mark within themselves. They activated what was already there. Jesus' entire ministry can be understood as an activation protocol, a sequence of teachings and transmissions designed to awaken those who carried the mark, to call forth the chosen ones from their spiritual slumber. When he said, "I have come to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled," he was speaking of this awakening, this ignition of the divine spark within the marked ones. The mystery schools of ancient Egypt, where many biblical scholars believe both Moses and Jesus received esoteric training, taught that certain souls reincarnate again and again carrying specific missions, specific frequencies, specific marks. These marked souls are the architects of consciousness evolution, the midwives of new ages, the transformers of collective reality. And the symbol they carved into temple walls, the symbol they encoded into their most sacred rituals, often resembled the wave pattern of water, the shape of the womb, the letter we know as M. Now that we've established the historical foundation, let's decode what the M mark actually is and why it exists within you at this very moment, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Imagine for a moment that your soul is like a sophisticated radio receiver, capable of tuning into thousands of different frequencies. Most people live their entire lives tuned to just one or two stations: the frequency of survival, the frequency of social conditioning, the frequency of fear and limitation. But those who carry the M mark, their receivers were built differently. They were designed from the very beginning to access stations that most of humanity doesn't even know exist. The M mark is not something you acquire through good deeds or religious devotion. It's not a reward for being spiritual or enlightened. It's a pre-incarnational imprint, a soul-level agreement that you made before you entered this physical body. Think of it as a divine assignment encoded into your energetic DNA. Before you were born, in the realm of pure consciousness, where your soul existed in its fullness, you volunteered for a specific mission. You raised your hand in the cosmic council and said, "Send me. I'll go into the density. I'll forget who I am. I'll wade through the darkness. But when the time is right, awaken me. Activate my mark, and I will fulfill my purpose." The letter M itself holds extraordinary symbolic power that reveals the nature of this mark. Look at the shape of the letter. 3 pillars, 2 valleys. It represents the sacred triad, the trinity of body, mind, spirit, the threefold path of awakening. The 2 valleys represent the descents, the dark nights of the soul that every marked one must endure. You see, those who carry this mark don't get easier lives. They get more meaningful ones. They get more challenging ones. Because the M mark is also the mark of the mystic, the martyr, the master who must descend into hell to retrieve the keys to heaven. In Jesus' teachings, we find constant references to this marking, though he spoke in parables so that those with eyes to see would understand, while others would hear only stories. When he spoke of the sower scattering seeds, he was describing different types of souls. Some seeds fall on rocky ground and never take root. These are souls without the mark, souls who haven't yet developed the capacity for deep spiritual growth. But some seeds fall on fertile soil and produce a harvest, 30, 60, even 100-fold. These are the marked ones, souls whose very essence is designed to multiply spiritual light and consciousness. The activation of the M mark occurs in stages, like a flower blooming in time-lapse photography. The first stage is what mystics call the divine discontent. If you've always felt like you don't quite belong in this world, if you've sensed that there's something more, something deeper, something that everyone else seems content to ignore, that's not depression. That's not dysfunction. That's the first stirring of your mark beginning to wake up. It's your soul's internal alarm clock going off, saying, "Remember. Remember why you came here. Remember what you're supposed to do." The second stage is what I call the shattering. This is when life systematically dismantles everything you thought you knew, everything you thought you were, everything you thought you needed to be happy. Relationships end, careers collapse, beliefs crumble, identities dissolve. And while you're going through it, it feels like cosmic punishment, like you've done something terribly wrong. But here's the truth that will set you free. The shattering is not destruction. It's preparation. The old vessel must be broken so that a larger one can be formed. The marked ones cannot fulfill their purpose while still clinging to the small, safe, socially acceptable versions of themselves. The third stage is the quickening. And this is where many of you are right now. The quickening is characterized by synchronicities multiplying in your life, by dreams becoming more vivid and prophetic, by a sudden acceleration of spiritual experiences and paranormal phenomena. You start seeing repeated numbers, especially sequences like 1111, 333, or 555. You start having conversations where someone speaks the exact words you were just thinking. You start knowing things you have no logical way of knowing. This isn't madness. This is your mark activating. This is your soul coming online, your divine receiver finally tuning into the frequencies it was designed to access. Jesus understood this progression intimately because he walked it himself. His 40 days in the wilderness wasn't just a fast, it was an initiation, a forced shattering of his human limitations so that his divine nature could fully emerge. When he emerged from that desert, he emerged marked, activated, fully conscious of his mission. And he looked at his disciples, at Mary Magdalene, at the few who truly understood. And he saw their marks, too. He saw the divine signature written in light across their foreheads. He knew who they were before they knew themselves. The M mark also corresponds to specific energy centers within your body. In the Eastern traditions, they speak of chakras, spinning wheels of energy that run along your spine. But the ancient Christian mystics had their own understanding of these energy centers, and they knew that the M mark activates 3 of them simultaneously: the heart, the throat, and the third eye. The heart opens to unconditional love and cosmic compassion. The throat opens to speaking truth and channeling divine wisdom. The third eye opens to seeing beyond the veil, to perceiving the spiritual dimensions that interpenetrate physical reality. But here's where the teaching gets even deeper, where we venture into territory that most spiritual teachers won't touch because it's too controversial, too confronting, too real. The M mark doesn't just activate gifts and abilities, it also attracts opposition. Jesus warned about this when he said, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." He wasn't advocating violence. He was revealing a fundamental law of spiritual physics. The moment you activate your divine mark, you automatically create polarity. You become a lightning rod for both light and shadow. Think about what happened to every marked one throughout history. Jesus was crucified. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. Socrates was forced to drink hemlock. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. The pattern repeats across centuries, across cultures, across traditions. Why? Because the marked ones threaten the established order. They dissolve the illusions that keep the masses asleep. They speak truths that power structures don't want spoken. They activate potential in others that systems of control desperately want to keep dormant. The M mark makes you dangerous, not to people, but to the forces that feed on human unconsciousness. This is why Jesus also called the marked ones salt and light. Salt, in the ancient world, was a preservative. It kept things from rotting, from decaying, from falling into corruption. The marked ones serve this function in human civilization. They're the immune system of collective consciousness, the antibodies that appear when the body of humanity is becoming infected with lies, injustice, and spiritual amnesia. And light? Light doesn't fight the darkness. It doesn't argue with shadows. It simply shines, and by its very presence, darkness dissolves. That's your function. That's what the M mark empowers you to do. Now, let's address something crucial that creates confusion for many people on this path. The M mark exists in 2 states: dormant and activated. Every marked one is born with the imprint, the potential, the divine signature written into their soul blueprint. But most go their entire lives without activating it. They feel the calling but ignore it. They sense the discontent but medicate it. They experience the shattering but run from it, desperately trying to rebuild the old life that the universe is trying to help them outgrow. Activation requires conscious participation. It requires saying yes to the journey, even when you don't know where it leads. It requires surrender, trust, and a willingness to be completely transformed. The word Messiah itself, the title given to Jesus, begins with M. In Hebrew, it's Mashiach, and it means the Anointed One. But here's the secret that changes everything. Jesus never claimed to be the only Anointed One. He said, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." Greater things. He was revealing that the Christ consciousness, the anointed state, the M mark fully activated. This is available to all who carry the imprint. You're not meant to worship Jesus as something separate from yourself. You're meant to recognize him as the prototype, the example, the one who showed you what you're capable of becoming. In the Gnostic Gospel of Philip, there's a stunning passage that most Christians have never encountered. The anointing is superior to baptism. For from the anointing we are called anointed ones, Christians. It was not because of the baptism that the Christ was so called. Do you understand what this is saying? The true Christian isn't someone who believes in Christ, it's someone who embodies the Christ consciousness, someone whose M mark has been anointed, activated, set ablaze with divine purpose. The geometry of the M also reveals profound truth. When you write the letter M, you're creating a wave pattern, peaks and valleys, highs and lows, expansion and contraction. This is the rhythm of the marked one's life. You don't get to stay on the mountaintop. You must descend into the valley. But each valley leads to a higher peak. Each descent strengthens you for a greater ascent. The M is literally mapping out your spiritual journey. It's showing you that the path isn't linear, it's not always upward, but it is always purposeful. Every low serves the next high. Every death serves the next rebirth. There's also a hidden connection between the M mark and the concept of the many mansions that Jesus spoke of. When he said, "In my Father's house are many mansions," he was revealing the multidimensional nature of reality. Most people live in just one mansion, the physical, material dimension. But those with the activated M mark gain access to multiple mansions, multiple dimensions. You start experiencing reality as layered, textured, rich with meaning and symbolism. Dreams become as real as waking life. Meditation becomes a portal to actual places, actual realms. Prayer becomes conversation with actual beings who exist in frequencies beyond physical perception. The marked ones also share certain unmistakable characteristics that begin to emerge as the activation deepens. You develop an almost supernatural sensitivity to energy. You can feel when someone is lying, when a place holds trauma, when a situation is aligned or misaligned with truth. You experience time differently, moments of expanded consciousness where hours pass like minutes, or moments of acute presence where seconds stretch into eternity. You become a magnet for other marked ones. Suddenly, seemingly by chance, you meet people who speak your language, who understand your experiences, who recognize the light in your eyes because it matches the light in theirs. But perhaps the most profound aspect of the M mark is this. It makes you a bridge between worlds. The letter M itself looks like a bridge, doesn't it? 3 pillars supporting passage from one side to another. This is your sacred function. You exist at the intersection of spirit and matter, of heaven and earth, of the timeless and the temporal. You translate divine frequencies into human language. You bring heaven's blueprint into earthly manifestation. You demonstrate what's possible when a human being fully embodies their divine nature. Now we arrive at the most crucial part of this journey, the actual activation protocol that will awaken the M mark within your being. This isn't mere theory anymore. This is the practical mysticism that Jesus himself would have taught to his inner circle, behind closed doors, away from the crowds who came only for miracles and bread. What I'm about to share with you is a precise sequence of practices that, when done with genuine intention and consistency, will ignite the divine imprint that's been waiting inside you since before time began. The first practice is what I call the recognition ritual, and it must be performed every morning for at least 40 days, 40 being the number of transformation, the number of Jesus' wilderness initiation, the number that separates the old self from the new. The moment you wake up, before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you let the world flood into your consciousness, you sit up in bed, place your right hand over your heart, and speak these words aloud. I recognize the mark within me. I am anointed. I am chosen. I am awake. Feel the vibration of these words in your chest. Don't just recite them mechanically. Let them resonate through your entire energy field. You're not affirming something you hope to become. You're declaring something that already is. The second practice activates the M mark through sacred geometry and breathwork. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably with your spine straight, creating a clear channel from earth to heaven through your body. Close your eyes and visualize the letter M in brilliant golden light, hovering about 6 inches in front of your forehead, right at the location of your third eye. Now, here's the crucial part. As you inhale slowly through your nose, visualize that golden M moving forward and imprinting itself into your forehead, sinking deep into your brain, into your pineal gland, that pine cone-shaped mystery that the ancients called the seat of the soul. Hold your breath for a count of 4, feeling the M pulsing with light inside your head. Then, as you exhale through your mouth, visualize that light spreading from your third eye, down through your throat, into your heart, filling your entire chest cavity with golden radiance. Repeat this breath sequence 13 times. Remember, 13 is the number of transformation, the number of death and rebirth, the number encoded into the M frequency. Do this practice every evening before sleep, because the hours of sleep are when your consciousness travels into the higher dimensions, when your soul receives downloads and recalibrations, when the deepest work happens. By imprinting the M mark before sleep, you're programming your soul journey, directing your consciousness to the realms where activation occurs. The third practice involves what Jesus called bearing fruit. Your mark doesn't fully activate through meditation alone. It activates through sacred action, through allowing the divine energy to move through you into the world. Every single day, you must perform at least one act of what I call radical kindness. Kindness that costs you something. Kindness that requires you to step outside your comfort zone. Kindness that serves no purpose except to channel love into physical reality. Pay for someone's groceries anonymously. Spend an hour with someone who's lonely. Speak truth to someone who desperately needs to hear it, even if it's uncomfortable. The M mark activates through movement, through becoming a vessel for the divine current to flow through. Here's a practice that will dramatically accelerate your activation. But I must warn you, it's challenging, and it will bring things to the surface that you've been avoiding. It's called the mirror fast. For 7 consecutive days, you completely abstain from all mirrors, all reflective surfaces, all photographs of yourself, all selfies, all ways of seeing your external appearance. No checking how you look, no adjusting your hair, no examining your face. Why? Because the M mark cannot fully activate while you're identified with the physical vessel. You must temporarily release your attachment to the external form so that your consciousness can shift to the internal reality, to the energy body, to the soul self that the mark is written upon. During these 7 days, instead of looking at mirrors, you spend 5 minutes each morning and evening sitting in darkness with your eyes closed, asking, "Who am I beyond this body? What am I beyond this form?" The fifth practice is perhaps the most powerful, and it's based on Jesus' teaching about the kingdom of heaven being like a mustard seed. You must plant actual seeds, literally physically plant something living into the earth. As you plant these seeds, you speak over them. As this seed grows, so grows the mark within me. As this seed breaks through darkness into light, so do I break through limitation into divine potential. Then, every day, as you water these seeds and watch them grow, you're creating a physical mirror of your internal activation process. You're working with the laws of nature, the laws of growth, the laws that govern all transformation in this universe. When those seeds finally break through the soil and reach towards the sun, something breaks through within you as well. Now, let's address the obstacles you will face, because activation is never smooth. The first obstacle is doubt. Your rational mind will tell you this is nonsense, that you're deluding yourself, that nothing is really happening. When doubt arises, don't fight it. Simply observe it. Say to yourself, "There's the doubt. That's the old programming trying to keep me safe, trying to keep me small." Then return to the practices. Doubt only has power when you believe it's telling you the truth. The second obstacle is what I call the darkening, a period where everything seems to get worse instead of better. Relationships become more challenging. Old wounds resurface. You feel more lost than before you started. This is actually a sign that the activation is working. The mark, as it awakens, brings everything unlike itself to the surface to be healed and released. Don't run from the darkening. Move through it with faith. The third obstacle is isolation. As your mark activates, you'll notice that certain people start falling away from your life. Friends who once felt close now feel distant. Family members don't understand you anymore. You might feel more alone than you've ever felt. But here's what's actually happening. Your frequency is changing, and you can only maintain resonance with those who match your new vibration. The universe is making space in your life for the true soul tribe, for the other marked ones who are meant to walk this path with you. Trust the process. Trust the pruning. Finally, create what I call an activation altar in your home, a sacred space dedicated entirely to this work. Place on this altar a bowl of water to represent the M as the water bearer, a candle to represent the light you're meant to shine, something from nature to keep you connected to earth, and a written statement of your divine purpose. You don't need to know your full purpose yet. Just write what you sense, what you feel called toward, even if it's just one sentence. Sit before this altar for at least 10 minutes every day, in silence, simply being present to the sacred. This creates an energetic anchor point in your physical reality, a place where the veil is thin, where communication with the divine becomes easier. We've journeyed together through ancient mysteries and practical activations, through hidden teachings and forgotten truths, and now you stand at a threshold that only you can cross. Everything I've shared with you today, the historical foundations, the symbolic revelations, the activation protocols, all of it has been pointing toward this single moment of decision. Will you step forward into your marked identity, or will you return to the comfortable illusion of ordinary existence? Because make no mistake, you cannot unhear what you've heard here today. You cannot unknow what you now know. The seed has been planted, and seeds, once planted in fertile soil, have only one impulse: to grow. The M mark that Jesus revealed to his chosen ones isn't reserved for saints and mystics locked away in monasteries. It's not the privilege of the religiously devout or the spiritually perfect. It's the birthright of every soul who came to this earth carrying a sacred assignment, a divine mission, a specific frequency that the world desperately needs. You felt the resonance when you clicked on this video. You felt the recognition when I asked you to type, "I am marked," in the comments. That wasn't manipulation. That was your soul responding to its own truth, acknowledging what it has always known but perhaps never had language for until now. The marked ones throughout history have always been a minority, not because God plays favorites, but because the path of the marked one requires something that most people simply aren't willing to give: everything. It requires that you surrender the small, safe story of who you thought you were. It requires that you walk through the fire of transformation, again and again, knowing that each burning away reveals more of your divine essence. It requires that you stand in your truth, even when the entire world tells you you're wrong, crazy, or delusional. Jesus knew this. He lived this. And he looked at those who would come after him across thousands of years, and he marked them with a seal that no darkness could erase, no confusion could obliterate, no forgetting could permanently hide. Your activation has already begun. The moment you started watching this video, frequencies were transmitted that your soul recognized and received. The practices I've given you aren't creating something new. They're unveiling what has always been there, polishing the mirror until you can finally see your own divine reflection. 40 days from now, if you commit to these practices with genuine devotion, you will not be the same person. Your relationships will shift. Your perception will expand. Your purpose will clarify. Synchronicities will multiply. And most importantly, you'll begin to feel what the marked ones have always felt: that you're not just living life randomly, but participating in a grand cosmic design, playing a specific role in the awakening of human consciousness. I want you to understand something profound as we close. The M mark doesn't make you better than others. It makes you responsible to others. It makes you a servant of the light, a carrier of frequencies that heal, awaken, and transform. The greatest marked ones in history never sought glory or recognition. They sought only to fulfill their purpose, to complete their mission, to pour themselves out as an offering to the evolution of all beings. That's the path you're stepping onto now. It's not easier than the ordinary path. It's infinitely more challenging. But it's also infinitely more meaningful, more purposeful, more aligned with the deepest truth of who you are. So here's my final call to you. Go back to the comments right now and type, "I am marked," if you haven't already. Let that be your declaration to the universe, your acceptance of the call, your yes to the journey. And if this video has awakened something inside you, if it's given you language for experiences you've been having, if it's made you feel less alone on this strange and beautiful path, then honor that resonance by hitting the like button. Not for me, but for the algorithm that will carry this message to other marked ones who are desperately searching for confirmation that they're not crazy, that their experiences are real, that they're not alone. The time of the marked ones is now. We're living in an era of unprecedented awakening, where the veil between dimensions is thinner than it's been in thousands of years, where more souls are activating simultaneously than at any other point in human history. You're not here by accident. You're here by divine appointment. You're here because your mark is needed, your frequency is required, your specific expression of divine consciousness is an essential piece of the puzzle that completes the picture of a transformed world. Take the practices I've given you seriously. Commit to the 40 days. Create your altar. Plant your seeds. Breathe the golden M into your being. And watch as your life transforms from a random series of events into a sacred unfolding of divine purpose. You are the anointed one. You are the salt and the light. You are marked, chosen, and infinitely loved by the intelligence that breathed the stars into existence. Jesus revealed this truth 2,000 years ago, and today, through this transmission, it has been revealed to you again. Activate your mark. live your purpose, and remember, you are never, ever alone on this journey. We are legion, we are marked, and we are rising.